Hey, if you don't happen to know me, my name is Reece and I am the owner and founder of Define. Today we're going to be doing our first tutorial with the Tans palette, and I am so excited for those of you who have purchased the palette. This is hands down my favorite one because it can go so neutral and you can have a little bit more fun with it and be just a little more bold. You know, we're not taking it up a ton of levels, but it's so easy. It's an awesome palette to use for any woman of any age. But let's get on into it because you're here for the tutorial. First things first, we're going to grab our eyeshadow primer and our dual camouflage stamper brush, and we're gonna load that up. Let me grab my palette so I have a mirror. But essentially what the eyeshadow primer is going to do is create that really solid base for us so that when we do have our eyeshadow on, it'll stay longer, which I don't know about you, but I hate in the mornings when I spend all this time doing my eyeshadow, you know, hoping it looks good, and then I look at myself in the mirror around 3 or 4 in the afternoon and I'm like, where'd it go? Because, you know, I didn't use an eyeshadow primer. So for years now I've learned that trick, and eyeshadow primer is not something I will go without. There will even be some days I just wear eyeshadow primer with some powder over it if I'm not doing eyeshadow, because I feel like it really just sets up a solid base for your eye, kind of cancels out some of that redness. And if you happen to be in between waxing appointments or getting your brows tweezed, the really nice thing is it's such a creamy product that it'll actually lay right down. So you can see the difference in my eyes. One trick or tip here: if you're looking at your brows, you're gonna wanna make sure they're level. So I'm actually just gonna take this, kind of look surprised, bring my eyebrows up, and I'm drawing that line across to make sure they start at the same point, because I want my eyebrows to be level. And then you can kind of take your finger and smooth that out. If you hear any dogs in the background, we have 4 Pomeranians at my house, and that's where I'm recording from. So they are enjoying this too, I'm sure. There's actually one of them just beside me, chilling, minding her own business. So, okay, as fast as possible, I'm going to finish out this eye. But what you're gonna want on hand next is your Tans palette. And then for brushes, we will be using the fluffy crease brush as well as the precision crease brush. You don't really need the precision crease, it's just one that I kind of like to have on hand if you're just starting to do makeup. I'm gonna take my finger and smooth out that line so it is not super harsh. All right, dabbing that, making sure everything is good to go. All right, let's go ahead and grab the precision crease brush and our Tans palette. This is my personal one, so if it looks a little dirty, that's why I absolutely love it and I use it. All right, precision crease brush, loading up our white. It's got a little bit of shimmer to it. And I'm gonna pat press this just along the tail of my brow. So going from where the arch is to the end of the tail. Same thing, both sides, pat press motion is gonna make sure it sticks for long wear. And then I'm going to also apply it in the inner corner of my eye. This is really gonna bring, you can just see how much more bright my eye looks, how much more awake and alert I am when you add that color into the inner corner. Next brush, we're going to switch over to the fluffy crease brush, and I am going to load up this kind of like grayish tan. I love it, such an awesome color. Now we are going to take this, find your brow bone. You can kind of pat around and figure out where that is, or not brow bone, it would technically be called your orbital bone if we're going anatomy wise here. But regardless, you're gonna go kind of on top of / slightly underneath that, pack pressing, and then we're going to blend upwards towards the start of the brow for the rest of the way. So pat press the first 50 and then blend the rest of the way. Now this can look pretty harsh when you're just placing it at first, but don't worry, we will blend it out. So tap off any excess. We're going to pat press and blend upwards towards the start of the brow. All right, now that we have that in place, we are going to blend. So don't worry, it's gonna get better. Take your fluffy crease, swipe it on a towel just to get off that loose powder, and then gentle back and forth motions. Notice it's coming from my fingers, not my wrist and not my elbow. That was kind of like a swish motion there. I apologize, you're probably hearing my dogs walk back and forth across the floor, but you know what? It's life with animals. I can't control them, and I let them in the room so they weren't whining. So, you know, it is what it is. It'll be good. It'll all buff out in the end. All right. Now that side is blended. You can see the difference here. So take your time, blend, make sure everything is in place. So back and forth motion, kind of like an eraser, just blending that in. Eyeshadow wise. Making some funny mascara faces for you here too. All right, so now we have that in place, and if you're like, it feels like a bit much and I lost some of that white shade, what you can do is go back with your fluffy crease brush, grab a little bit of that white, and just really reestablish it and make sure it looks brighter in those areas. Same thing over here. Flat press, make sure it looks nice and bright. There we go. Okay, next shade, we're gonna keep this super simple, very neutral. We're gonna go in with that traditional tan shade, load that up on the fluffy crease brush, and we're pack pressing this all along the eyelid itself. So just where your eye is, not really going any higher and not going any lower. If you need to, invert your brush, make sure you get close to that lash line, and that is placed. So now we're gonna do the other eye, grabbing that tan, pat pressing all over the eyelid, really making sure it's on there, inverting the brush, and then we have it placed. So now take the fluffy crease brush, swipe it on a towel, and we're going to blend. And you're just blending it right into that second color that we placed, so that grayish, making sure that there's no harsh line, and that it really just kind of creates an ombre and melts on into it. And that is tutorial number 1. If you want to do something a little extra and kind of bring it to the bottom as well, you can take your precision crease brush, load up the tan, and then you can kind of, I call it like scribbling. Honestly, that's the best way to describe it. Scribble that tan color until about halfway in on both sides. And this is going to kind of create that halo and smoke it out just a little bit. Now the really nice thing is they're neutral colors, so it's not going to be really intense. And then I'm switching to a fluffy crease brush. I swipe that on a towel to get it clean, and we're going to lightly blend that towards the inner corner of our eye. So just smoking it out, blending it towards the inner corner of the eye. And you can see that it just kind of creates that more halo effect, more halo-like, I should say, effect for your eyeshadow. But that is tutorial number 1 with the tans palette. So I will see you guys back for tutorial number 2.